Hi, this is Michael Walsh. I'm the artist and writer of Silver Coin, Universal Monsters Frankenstein, and the upcoming book with James Tynion, Exquisite Corpses. And you are listening to the Splash Pages Comic Book Club.
You are watching Splash Pages. My name is Leo. I'm the monkey behind the keyboard here. We have an incredible show for you as always. And we'll kick it on over to Kari. How's it going?
It is going smashing, Leo. I am so thrilled out of my mind about our guest for tonight that I can't introduce him because I kind of lose it a little bit. I'm just like, squeak, yay. So let's go over to Drew and he can do it. And then we can start the show.
The words.
Come on, Drew. You got it. Words. You have the words.
Hi, everybody. It's Tuesday again. It's still not Monday, so that's an improvement. So we're here. We're back. We had a little time off, and we learned absolutely nothing. So about the usual. We have a stellar guest to start off our April. We had him here last year, and he's been so goddamn busy. We're so lucky he jumped on again. You've seen his work on his very well received adaptation of Frankenstein, or Frankenstein's monster, but Frankenstein. He's doing a fantastic collaboration that is probably going to blow all the doors off with James Tynion, Exquisite Corpses. There's going to be more of his extremely great creator-owned book, The Silver Coin. He's done a bunch of covers. You've seen him in Marvel, DC, Dark Horse. He's done covers. He's done interiors. He's written. He's a one-man machine, and he still had time to come here for us. But everybody, please welcome the one, the only, Mr. Michael Walsh.
Hello. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm excited to be on the show again.
Well, we're excited to have you. And I just have to go back to Drew for 1 second. I just realized the way Kari put the background, you have horns.
Oh, yeah. That really did kind of line up nicely. Wow, that is fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Kari. That's some subtle imagery there.
I am to serve.
Yes. So, well, Michael, thank you again. And I'm glad because Kari has been squeeing about this for like the last couple of days. Because if anybody's excited about having you here, well, we are, but Kari is definitely like, oh my God. I'm like, we know. every time. So, Kari, do you have anything to start with?
Well, yes, I've been covering this since we got the black screen that just said the Project Exquisite going on. And like, okay, what's going to be? It's going to be, oh my God, what did you do? You guys just broke my brain. I'd been looking for, I'm like, okay, this is going to be fun. Whatever it's going to be fun. It's going to be huge. This is, guys, okay, if you don't know what's going on, if you haven't been following me, and you really should, because
Kari.
Things. This man,
Kari, hold on. Take a deep breath and then go. Okay, there we go.
James Tynion are releasing like just creator-owned wonders with terror and so much fun. Exquisite Corpses is going to be this beautiful, beautiful project that can remain to be an ongoing thing. It's not something that we have to go, oh, we're only going to get 13 issues and then we're done. We're getting all of the things. And then there's more Silver Coin coming out. And just, oh my God, how do you, and along with the comic, Mr. Magic the Gathering artist here is also putting out a card game to go with Exquisite Corpses, where we're getting basically like a serial killer free-for-all tournament kind of thing going on. And all of the killers are just crazy. They've been slowly releasing them. I've given Leo some pictures. We can go over them a little bit. But tell us what's been going on. How did you guys keep this under wraps for so long? Because
that's probably been the hardest part about this project, is not being able to talk about it, because me and James have been working on it for a very long time. James came on to write an issue of Silver Coin, and we had been friends for a long time. We're the same age. We got into the industry, both of us really quite young, in our early 20s, and we kind of came up together but hadn't worked together until the Silver Coin, until we did that issue. And that was one of my favorite issues of the Silver Coin. Working with James is so easy and natural. We have the same tastes and the same, you know, storytelling preferences. So once we finished Silver Coin, I think instantly we were both like, hey, we need to do something bigger together. We got to, like, you know, pick a huge project, if not an ongoing, at least we got to do a mini together. And, you know, I took a bit of time off work when I had my child. And then when I was getting back into the swing of things again, James had reached out and said, look, I've got this idea and it's just the kernel of an idea right now, but I think it's something that is so up your alley. I think we should work on it together. Can I give you a call? So me and James jumped on the phone, and at the beginning, the kernel of the idea was very small, and it wasn't small. It was a big kernel, but it was just a kernel. And it was just, we've got 12 serial killers and we drop them in a small town and they have a battle royale free for all. What do you think? And I was like, instantly, the creative spaces in my brain were firing, and there was explosions in all the cylinders of my brain with killers and designs and who should fight who and how the structure of the story could work. So I think, like, it would just hit me perfectly, all of the different things that could happen with this story. And by the end of that call, me and James already had talked about a bunch of different ideas for killers and the small town and some of the civilians. And I think the next day I had sent James some art for one of the killers and what they could look like in the story. So yeah, we and that was a long time ago. I think that was almost 2 years ago now. So we took our time because me and James both had a bunch of other commitments to finish before we could jump into Exquisite Corpses. So we took our time developing the story, figuring out where we wanted. That's a great photo.
That's my favorite picture.
Figuring out who all the civilians would be, who all the killers would be, and who we wanted to bring onto the project and get involved in it. And during that process, I came up with the idea for a game that could tie into the comic, a card game, like a tabletop strategy light game with a lot of social elements to it. So we've also been developing that over the last almost 2 years now. And we'll have more announcements on that card game itself next week. But I can do a little bit of talking about that while I'm on the show as well.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. I mean,
yeah, so we're just so excited. And yeah, keeping a project that you're this excited about secret for that long has been so tough. It's been so hard because I'm somebody who really likes to talk about the things that I'm working on, because I'm very lucky in that the projects that I choose and that I'm offered are, you know, always projects that are things that I would read as a fan of the medium.
Right. I mean, well, I will say this. I mean, you know, just to kind of side note here, I mean, you guys worked on, I think it was issue 11 of the Silver Coin, which is believe the diner one. Yes. Which, as a fan of diners, I was like, don't do this to me, guys. Like, come on. Like, don't do this. Like, don't take away my joy and fill it with horror. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. This is the same thing with Evil Dead and camping. Like, after that, I was like, nope, not doing this. But that was just, I mean, again, the whole thing. And I just need to say, again, it's with corpses a bit. The second I saw that there's more Silver Coin coming, and not only that, but you have been planning so hard. You're actually ahead of getting it ready. Just, I was like, what? Fantastic. And even, I think, like, one of the press releases, like, this is some of my most favorite. Like, you've got some new collaborators, just some great stories. And I have so many friends who are horror fans. And I'm like, guys, please read this book. Let it fuck you up like it did me. And one or two people are like, oh, okay. And I sent it there and like, dude, I'm like, I know. Like, why should Two-Face be the only one who has a good time with a coin? You know?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
No, I'm so pumped. Like, me and Kari collectively, she's the one who turned me on to it. We're both like, yes.
Yeah. Silver Coin up to this point in my career is definitely one of the things I'm most proud of. I've put so much work and time into that series that I couldn't ever really give it up. Like, I don't think Silver Coin will ever end. It will have hiatuses throughout my career, I'm sure, but at the end of the day, I think I'll always come back and have more stories to tell with that devious little coin.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, it's like how Mike Mignola there's always a Hellboy story to tell. So kind of like there's always a Silver Coin.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I have a layout, and when we did this last year, I tried sending Drew my notes of like how things go and like the timeline and where the silver coin has been and like the gaps so that it's like, okay, so anytime in here it gets from this person to this person, that can all be filled in. And
Mhm.
here's, places there's lost. Oh, and look, this person has somebody in a casino happens to have a lot of coins and, and different things. And I sent him my notes and he was just like, what language do you speak? Because
It wasn't what? No, no, no. It
I'm like,
wasn't
no,
that.
it was pretty bad. It was
It,
like, like kids camp, teases hair, runs out woods, pulling skin overhead. Why did I do this? Coin scooped up by this.
well, no, no, no. And
Like,
what I said is, this is what you spend your time on.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I said. And because I'm just imagining her with like the red string rooms. She was like, okay, it went here and then went here. And I was like, Kari, it's 3 a.m.
it's
Go the
important.
fuck to sleep. And she was like, no, I have to figure out where the gaps are. And I'm like, I will give you Michael's email. Please send this to him. Let him reward your crazy. And here he is.
But
So that joke's on me.
And you
But
can't tell her to do that at 3 a.m. Like that's
well, no. She was already up, okay? Because unlike some of
yeah.
us, she sleeps other hours.
See,
But
we see Duncan the crow right there with the kid
Yeah.
standing over Louis. And I know this because I'm obsessed.
she
It's
is.
my thing.
She is.
I
But
love Duncan.
But
He's one of my favorite characters in all of Silver Coin.
see,
I
my avatar for everything is a crow, so I'm like, he's my pal.
can you
Mhm.
love this book any more than you already do? No.
No,
And then you do another issue. It's like, nope, love it more. Um, yeah, I just have to say I can't wait for more. Like the second that issue drops, it's gonna be my hot take. I'm like, yes.
Oh, it's just it's fun. Even looking back at these pages that you're showing here, this was drawn so long ago now. Um, at least it feels like it. But I'm still so happy with these. A lot of times I look at my old work and I have trouble appreciating it. But with the silver
Mm.
coin stuff, just even the older stuff, these first few issues, there's just so much love put into these pages.
Have you seen?
oh,
Let me ask this because again, with your own work, we've seen, creators being surprised by people cosplay. Has anyone dressed up like any characters from Silver Coin? Like, have you seen anybody, or has anybody given you like a prop Silver Coin?
Yeah, people have had prop silver coins, and I've seen some silver coin tattoos, but I haven't really seen any cosplay of it, actually. I'm expecting though that there will be some serious cosplay for Exquisite Corpses, which I'm pretty excited about.
Oh, that's yeah.
oh yeah. For those of you not in the know, you need to sign up for the Tiny Onion Substack, and their release and the Empire of the Tiny Onion. They're releasing a serial killer each time you go through each week, the Exquisite Killer of the Week. And Leo's grabbed some of those. The one that it hasn't shown yet is the first one that you designed, the Gamer Kid, who is
Mhm.
described as, quote, a sociopathic, terrifying little kid who is equating people he killed in the real world with kills in a video game. And so he's a Cub Scout wielding a machine gun named Calvin.
Yes.
Um, who sounds
So
awesome. And
wow.
then these are some of the ones that, yeah, were released that I don't have artwork for Calvin. I couldn't find any, but
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what I'm allowed to say about the killers that haven't had full
oh,
reveals by Tiny Onion yet. But there's 12 killers, and they're all very different. There's like a lot of contrast in whether they're big and larger than life, and they're like this, like assassins, like the Fox Mask Killer. And then there's some that are just like they look like everyday people, and those are kind of the scariest ones, right? The ones who are the unexpected serial killers. So you'll see a
Mhm.
few in the coming weeks that might not be necessarily the look of the other characters in terms of like the dynamism and how bombastic the designs are, but I think that's what is part of the fun of the book too, is like you can't rule out the person that's just wearing a nurse's smock, you know. You just, those are sometimes the more devious of the killers.
Absolutely. And it's so funny because like as you're thinking this, I'm just thinking of like that there's been such a rise, I would say, over the last maybe 5 years of what I like to call like the horror writer genre. Because like I think I think we had Kyle Starks on and his book Where Monsters Lie. You know, Scott Snyder has certainly done a lot of horror. James is I mean, he just wrapped up his story The Deviant, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
Cullen?
Yeah, Cullen Bunn. I mean, say no more there. Tim Seeley, like there's just been this rise of like horror literature, and you know, you're contributing to it. I mean, you're doing the Silver Coin, you're doing this. You know, like, do you guys? Is there like a horror summit? Do you guys just like chill, drink red wine, swap ideas, just like try to out horror each other? Like, is there like a Blood Brothers group chat?
So are you asking if there's a super secret horror comic book writers tiki club? Are you
Okay,
are you
no.
that?
No. I did not say no. I didn't say the TC word.
Never gonna let that go.
Ever. All right.
Never.
No, Kari, go tell the thing.
No, I've noticed that a lot of horror writers are also tiki fans, and that they tend to post drinks with it. And so I started with Colin, but I've been asking all sorts of different people. And so basically everybody who's a horror comic book writer, I ask if you are in fact a part of the super secret horror comic book writers tiki club, because even though most people deny it exists, which is fair because you don't want to let people in on the secret, I'm always waiting for somebody to just give me a little hint here and there, you know, like,
I can't break the rules of the Tiki Club. That's the first rule, is there is no Tiki Club.
Uh-oh. Oh, no. Yeah. You confirmed there are rules.
Good.
Michael, you confirmed there's rules.
I've had people slip, so you're good, sir.
Yeah. Oh, dear God. Well, speaking of things that...
But yeah, as Drew was asking.
Yeah. I'm just moving on. But there is one thing I definitely want to ask, is that you were able to participate in the Horizon experiment, which was Porchak Pachodi's idea of just one shots of various projects and whatnot. And I believe yours was the Sacred Damned. Was that?
Yes. Yeah.
Sacred Damned with Saber Posada.
Yeah. Which, my God, man, I mean, I really hope that gets picked up. That was fantastic.
It was so fun. Yeah. When Pornsack approached me, you know, he's a pretty tough guy to say no to. He's a legend in the comic book scene. He's edited some of the best books in the world, and he's an incredible writer in his own right. He did one of my favorite issues of Silver Coin, and he's a good friend of mine, and I really just respect him. So when he approached me about it, it was almost an instantaneous yes. But then when I read the pitch for what Saber wanted to do with Sacred Damned, I was really excited about it. It feels a lot to me like something like Thinner from Stephen King. Like it has these kind of supernatural thriller vibes.
Yeah, totally.
The way that he's infused a bunch of the you know, different historical fiction from and creatures and pieces of the religion from the Muslim faith and parts of their mythology as well. It was a fun way to, you know, take the typical, you know, folklore thriller horror story and put a new spin on it for, you know, a bunch of mythology that probably us in the Western world haven't heard of before. So it was a really fun, exciting challenge to do that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the ending.
It's brutal. When I first read that script, I was like, oh, this is like the kind of cruel horror that I really love, because it's also super insightful.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminded me of like those old like Hellblazer, you know, like the really like the Alan Moore, Garth Ennis stuff, where, you know, despite John winning, he really still loses regardless. Totally. But it was just fucking brutal, and I was just like, please pick this up. This needs to be like, we need more. And it was just that the whole thing all those one shots were fantastic. But I mean, this one particularly, just to my horror heart, like I just
Yeah.
feel like so much of your work, I'm just like, please, TV, for the love of God, mini series this stuff,
Yeah.
please.
We
Yeah.
gotta
This
take
was
it
a
down.
fun
We
one
don't
to
want to give
draw.
them any more.
I loved all these
They gotta buy
demons too.
themselves.
Right? But
Yep. Oh, I love Jen. They're so much fun.
Yeah.
And it's considered complete, like Jen are completely accepted.
Hmm.
Like, not in American culture, we're just like, oh, anything that's possibly supernatural is completely made up. And no, you can be like, you can legally go through and say like, oh, I was possessed by a Djinn or influenced by a Djinn, and it's like, yeah, we take that seriously. They absolutely
Hmm.
believe that Djinn are part of like existence. So I love how that was brought in too. It's like, no, this isn't a fairy tale that we're telling. This is something that's like real, and people, need to learn more about that. I love that you guys brought that forward that way.
Yeah, they were. It's fun because with them because they've been part of like Muslim folklore for literally thousands of years. So there's some really early depictions of them in some of their literature and in some paintings. So I actually tried to base my design of the Djinn on some of the very earliest depictions of them, where they have features of all different kinds of animals, and they're a lot of times they're cast in complete shadow, and they have these kind of outward hooked fangs. So I tried to integrate a bunch of those features from the earliest depictions of the Djinn in my designs for them. But because they're kind of a community of Djinn, I wanted them to still have different distinct features to each of them. So they all have different kind of shapes and sizes. You can even see children, like Djinn children in the backgrounds in some scenes too, because we're trying to build up this society of them living in these woods. So it was fun. We were creating this whole world of characters and creatures.
yeah, and you did so much with just one issue. Like what world building?
Yeah.
It was crazy. So again, I know that the purpose of the project was that you kind of set it up that if it gets picked up or there's enough of an intention. I really hope a lot of those, if not
Mhm.
all of them, you guys get to do more, because this one especially, man.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was
a
an incredible group of really smart and bright creative people with really distinct voices, and I'm happy, like, either way, whether it does or doesn't, it actually brought some attention to, like, some of this really incredible folklore from all over the world that is underseen in Western media.
Totally. So then, and there's another thing, is there ever things that you do that don't end up like for instance, when you're working on your own project, are there ever scenes that I guess like do you have like a scrapbook collection of like things that you couldn't use, be like, this is a good idea but it's not for this project, but I'm going to save it for maybe later, like
Yeah,
you have like a box of nightmares that you're just like, yeah, it was like, oh, let me find, oh, here it is, here you go, you can play now.
yeah, a lot of times it comes from, uh, pitches for ideas that I had that I never either never fully fleshed out, I never pitched, or never got picked up, and sometimes I'll disassemble those pitches and use parts of
Mhm.
them in other places.
Okay.
Um, even my original pitch for, the, Universal Monsters Frankenstein book,
Mhm.
I changed that a lot, but I still deconstructed it and used pieces from that original pitch in what Universal Monsters Frankenstein became. So it's definitely something to do. If you have a good idea, you don't throw it in the trash, you hold on to it because it will eventually get used somewhere, especially when you're someone like me that's, been working in comics a long time, and I will be working in comics a long time. I'm planning to
Mhm.
just keep doing this. I'm not here for one story. I'm not a one and done comics creator. This is my career, this is my life. So you gotta really save those things because you never know when you're gonna need one.
Right.
I
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned pieces with Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And I also love how absolutely confident you are because you know you've made it and you're there, and comics is going to be there and you are going to be in comics. for a long time. This isn't one of those like, I'm going to try, I'm going to do my best. You made it. You're landed, you're hitting it hard, and you're doing great. And you own
Thank
it.
you.
I
Yeah,
love
I
that.
mean, I didn't mean to insinuate that I'd always be successful, but I will always be drawing comics no matter, you know, whether Marvel and DC or Image are here or not, whether I'm even making money. I'm just somebody that has a very busy brain and I need to be telling stories, and comics is the way that I've chosen to do that. So whether I'm even making money from it or not, I'll be telling stories in the comic book form one way or another.
Yeah.
You
And-
didn't sound like you were bragging. You were just like confident.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. You were just like, this is a fact. Like,
Yeah.
like I am
This is what
wearing
I
a green
do.
hat. You
Well,
know, I was like, no, he is.
It really shows your love for the medium as well. Like, you know, we've spoken to some people that, you know, very few comic book creators are, you know, it's a daily job for them, but it's awesome how many people that we speak to, including yourself, that, you know, you love the medium. Like we love, you know, reading and, you know, holding comics and sniffing comics, you know.
Whoa. What are you doing with your comics, buddy? It's not a scratch.
What aren't you doing, dear?
Yeah, like okay.
Like, comics, like, you know,
The old
get 'em, you
newsprint
open
comics,
'em.
they do have a smell. That's for sure.
That is true.
Yeah, there's a nostalgic smell to those when you go into an old comic shop and you're flipping through the old bins and you crack open, like, from the 80s an issue of Daredevil. Like, that's got a smell.
It does. Smells. Yep. Nothing like Catholicism and Marvel guilt. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I also want to say is because we had previously last month we had Dan Waters on, who worked on the Creature of the Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
And then you know, so you guys just are, you know, adding to the lore, and this is especially great because you told stories that are woven in between what we already knew.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you were doing both a prequel and an adaptation and your own twist at the same time. And you just, I mean, I was gonna say you must have gone like to circus school or something, because you just juggle things so well. Like,
thank you. Yeah.
like there was so much happening and everything is dazzling. Like literally, I'm watching this and I'm just imagining, like, you're drawing it, you got a candelabra somewhere, you know, just true gothicness, and then you have like young Frankenstein in the background. It was like, with this horror, a little humor.
And
I
then
watched
the
this movie
sorrow.
literally hundreds of times when I was writing it and when I was drawing it, because I wanted to make sure that it really actually fit within the canon of the film. And you know, whenever you saw Paul in a scene, he was in somewhere physically that could exist within the setting that they actually built within each setting of the movie. You know, the nice thing is that, like, that movie is mostly shot on sound stages, so there's always a third of the room that you can't see. So I just took that third of the room and designed it myself, and always had Paul in that third of the room, right? And I had, you know, all the lines that I used from the movie, I wanted to make sure that they wove into the new lines that I wrote for these characters as well. So I was just studying and analyzing this movie more than I've watched anything since The Last Jedi, which I did an adaptation of for Marvel. So probably the movies that I've seen the most in my life now are Frankenstein from 1931 and The Last Jedi, Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Of course.
So as you did it from the movie, because these were all the Universal Monsters ones, are you a fan of the book as well?
Yeah, so I'm actually more of a fan of the book
to,
than the film. I do love the movie. I think it's a beautiful movie, and I think it's shot so incredibly well. But the depth of theme that Mary Shelley has in her novel, and the amount of character and the complexity of the arcs that all the characters go through, are something that you couldn't capture in that film, and the structure that it was made and the time that it was shot. So my goal with this was not only to be reverent of that film and to pay homage to it in all the ways that I could, but I also wanted to bring in some of the complexity of the novel and some of the themes of the novel into the framework that the film's already established.
Mhm.
And I mean, I hope I did that, but then that Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is definitely, it's in like my top 10 novels of all time. I've read it a bunch of times. I absolutely adore it. Yeah.
What?
Leo, can you go back one page? Because this was the like, okay, you just broke me. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
this is so hard. Just sorry.
No.
It's such a good horror comic, but it also has like all of the feels right there on those 2 pages. Is just like, this is going to destroy you so bad. But then you go on to see what else happens and to get all of those other themes that you put in it and stuff. But just reaching out and trying to connect and
Yeah.
Well, also the scene, let's see, where was it? Back here,
yeah.
It's definitely heart-wrenching,
It's, guys, don't get me wrong, this is heart-wrenching, but the man had the one moment that always stuck with me was the Petunia scene.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why, but as a kid, that wrecked me.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea why. It was just, she was just throwing. It was like, oh yeah, the flowers float. He's like, well, you're cute, so I'm gonna throw you in. And I'm just like, he didn't know, man. He didn't know she couldn't swim.
Yeah.
He didn't know.
He doesn't know anything.
What kind of kid is hanging out at a pond whose parents let her go there when she can't swim?
No, that's not the question
his
you asked,
fault.
Carrie. The question is, where was the lifeguard at the pond? Okay, clearly that man was getting a snack, neglected his duties, and he did not do the body system. Okay, you have to have your body. I learned that watching the movie Heavyweights. You have your buddy, but it's body. Okay, so in horror movies, it's body, but whatever.
So you're saying there was like lifeguards in medieval Europe?
I'm 100% yes. Okay, yes, lifegardens.
These are the Bavarian Alps in the 1930s. I suspect these waters are pretty cold. I don't know if we got many people swimming in them.
Yeah, exactly. But the point being is the guy was clearly on lunch.
Yeah.
And, he was the real monster.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm convinced. Frank was just splish splashing. Okay. But that's just whatever. Moving on. But one thing I wanted to ask in terms of adaptation, Michael, is when I was reading yours, I definitely remembered, what the late great Bernie Wrightson did with Frankenstein. So I want to assume also a fan as well. So did anything that Bernie did, which was, a league in its own, did any of that inspire your adaptation?
Bernie Wrightson's work is a consummate influence on my stuff, especially his Swamp Thing stuff too. And he, with this, I wanted to really try and stray away from his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, for what I took more so from his Frankenstein were some of the designs of the lab, the way how cluttered they are with all these different tools and mechanical devices that the doctor is using. But I wanted to try, I'm just not even physically capable, I don't think, of drawing like Bernie Wrightson draws. That person, he was just beyond incredible. So, I didn't even want to try and do any kind of emulation of his work, but it's definitely something that was on my mind is, the way that he drew the scenes and the way that he added atmosphere and tension and mood.
Oh, yeah.
Like he's just an incredible draftsman.
Oh, 100%.
It would take me way too long to draw a page with the kind of detail and complexity that he would draw with. I don't think I would be able to do a monthly comic with that kind of artistic styling. So, for me, I stripped down a little bit more. I'm doing a little bit of bigger, blockier shapes and blocking out more shadow in my work where he's rendering all that out. So it's just like, I can appreciate and be inspired by his work, but it wasn't really a direct influence on my version of Frankenstein.
No problem. Yeah,
that picture down in the bottom right with the brain, is amazing. And there is so much storytelling done in this through just your art. Through the panels with no dialogue, nothing going on, just you showing the whole flow of the story. It's awesome. There are a lot of people who if telling something like this would feel like, okay, we need to have a lot of information dump going on right now.
Right.
It's like, people don't understand. This is what's going on. People know Frankenstein. If you don't, go read it, go watch it, whatever. But you should have, everybody has the slight basic stuff so you can see how your characters are doing it, you know, or how, well, so how these characters are doing it. It's just, it's beautiful.
It's one of the benefits of being someone who draws and writes. When I'm writing for myself, as I'm drawing it, I can strip down, and if I think that the drawing is accomplishing everything that the writing was trying to do, then I can just take the writing out completely. So part of the process for me as a writer is that I get to do another pass on the writing while I'm drawing it, because I'm looking at the script and I'm taking things out and adding things in. So it affords me the luxury of really scaling back and trying to do as little as possible with the words and as much as possible with the art. Even my dialogue, I'm not someone who's super verbose in the way that I have my characters communicate. I try and like, can I cut this word out? Can I cut this word out? Can I cut this word out? Can I strip this sentence down to the absolute essential so that there's not too many words on the page? I really like the art to tell the story as much as possible in comics. You'll see, like, I'm not someone that writes in third person captions. I don't really do that very often. And if I have captions, it's usually coming from someone that's talking off panel, or it's leading into a scene or leading out of a scene.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just very conscious of how much writing that I'm doing. And for me, like, when I'm reading comics, I think of it as a visual medium. And I don't want to read comics that are just completely dense with words where I'm not able to enjoy the pictures even anymore. You know, if I want to be reading a novel, I will go read a novel. That's a completely different medium to me. So that's just my preference as a reader. So that's why I guess when I'm making comics, that's the kind of comics that I like to make.
So as an artist and writer, when you're doing that, like the panel that showed you're able to do like, okay, we're going to do these panels. I want you to do this, this, and this. I want these set up this way, and just telling the story. I mean, did you feed basically some of those things? Like, I want this image to look like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in the script, you know, I'm curious now to even pull it up, what I had in the script for these pages. I can pull it up now and read it out to you if you have 1 second for me to do so.
Oh yeah, no, take 2, take 5.
We love scripts. We'll be like, yes, please.
Yes, please. No, let's get those insider deets. Let's get that director commentary right now. Let's go.
I'm working on trying to figure out how to write some comics. So I've been studying as many different scripts and script writers as I can. So yeah.
And yeah, my scripts are generally quite sparse because I know I'm writing for myself. I don't really need to really over explain what I want, how I want the shots to look. So for page 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, see, like, even in the drawing of page 7, I've changed from the script here. So in this script that I have, it says exterior shot, the windmill lab, thunder booms in the distance. Caption, this is the wrong brain, you imbecile. Interior Frankenstein's study, the brain sits on a table in its jar labeled abnormal brain. Frankenstein is hunched over it, looking very determined and frustrated with Fritz. Fritz says, "I'm sorry, doctor, the other brain was." It was. On Fritz, he looks away from the doctor, trying to hide his lie. It was gone. And then Frankenstein brushes his greasy hair back out of his eyes. No matter. And then I had another panel here that I cut out because I didn't need to add another panel, because I said in panel 5, which was cut from the page, it says Frankenstein straightens himself and says, "This will have to do. This will have to make do." And then for the description of panel 6, it says Frankenstein snaps up the brain off of the table. Do not be afraid, poor Fritz, after all. So I changed the line there. And then I didn't even have in the script that his brain would be held in front of his face. I feel like probably as I was drawing that panel, that visual struck me that it would be really interesting to overlap the brain over Frankenstein's own head to show his connection to the monster. So, you know, that's the benefit of writing to myself, is that I can actually, you know, have ideas while I'm drawing and then integrate them into the script. But that's also the way that I work with writers as well that aren't myself. A lot of times, you know, when I'm working with James, I'll have ideas for things as I'm drawing it, and I'll send him a rough layout of a page and say, you know, what if we did this on this panel? Because I think it could be really visually interesting with this character. And 99.9% of the time, James is all over that, or any other writer that I've worked with. You know, you have to, I think as someone who writes for other artists as well, you really have to trust your artist. And if they have an idea for something visually that they think would be really interesting on the page, you have to let them follow that idea to its completion.
It's great to have both sides of it going on. I love when we have the combination writer artists on, because you guys know so much, and it's not like it's bad to not be able to do both, but we get to see how well everything goes together, compared to sometimes there's this whole disconnect of like, oh wait, and then this could have maybe been a little different. Oh wow, you used a lot of word balloons and didn't let your writer know that was gonna, or didn't let your artist know that was gonna happen. So goodbye background, and stuff like that can happen a little bit accidentally at times. So
I think I always say to people who are newer in the comic book industry and newer creatively, that they should just, even if they don't do published work in it, they should try and do everything in a comic at least once, or learn how to do it, so that when they're actually, say they're writing a comic, they know what goes into lettering it. They know how much space there's going to be, so that they can cut down and they can write the speech bubbles in a way that they know will work with on the context of the page. So it's good to kind of learn all the different elements of the craft, just so that when you're actually putting something together, you have that knowledge in your mind, and it helps you write a tighter comic, honestly. And then the editor will have to do less editing you know, later down the road.
And did you have all of your color panels picked out before it was Tony Marie?
No, not really. So Tony, this was a project where I really let Tony play with the palettes. Like, there were some instances where I had some ideas for things, but she really just, like, she dictated a lot of the atmosphere of this book by picking these palettes. So much of that was on Tony, and so much of the look of this book is on Tony. That's why I really wanted to make sure, you know, she was credited on the cover, because she's such a big part of the voice of the book. We have a really interesting working method where Tony will pick the palettes, and she'll put the textures down on the page and do some of the lighting. And then a lot of the times I will jump in and do some shadows and shaping in the color, just so that the figures have a little bit of that rendered look, so that the shapes and the form of the figure is what I had in my mind. So there's kind of like a little bit of a we kind of pass the colors back and forth a little bit while I'm working. And it really, I think, has benefited my art in a way that it probably looks better than it ever has, you know, starting with Frankenstein and Silvercoin.
It is such a beautiful book. Yeah. I think you two are a perfect team up there.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, she's not only my creative partner, but she's also my life partner. So it's nice that we're able to work together and work in the same studio, and we can kind of look over each other's shoulder as we're working, and you know, point each other in specific directions, or let each other know what's working or not.
Now,
I was unaware of that. That's great. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Do both of you work off of straight digital, so like Photoshop and whatnot, or do you hand draw and then scan it in?
I do both, but a lot of especially with Exquisite Corpses, is almost all drawn traditionally, and then the colors. Exquisite Corpses is actually colored by Jordi Belair, who's also someone that I've worked with for my entire career. She colored the first book I ever did, so she's been a long-time friend and collaborator. But yeah, most colorists, like 99% of colorists in comics, color digitally, because it is just, exponentially faster than coloring traditionally. I have done some traditional colors on some covers that I've done. I've painted them, and some Magic cards that I've done I've painted as well. But mostly, most of the time I'm doing coloring digitally in Photoshop, and Tony's uses Photoshop as well. A lot of Frankenstein was drawn in Photoshop digitally just because I was trying to save time and move quickly because deadlines were pretty tight. So I just needed to have a quick turnaround, and I'm much faster digitally. Having an undo button when you're inking saves a lot of time.
And I'm assuming you're using like a Wacom or
yeah, I've got a big Cintiq tablet right here. I'm not gonna move my camera too much here, but I think you can kind of see it here. It's
Oh my
it's about
God.
24 inches. So this will you draw on this. Oh, hold on. I got to make sure there's no spoilers on it right now. my Photoshop will be
boy, didn't see anything.
Spoiler on it. Oh, that's a big spoiler.
Oh boy,
Got directions to the Tiki
Oh,
Club on
man.
it.
You can see here, it's got a comic book page on it.
guys.
You can zoom in on and draw. This is a page from Exquisite Corpses issue 2. So I don't want to reveal too much of it, but yeah. So this is where I do a lot of my work on this screen right here.
That's amazing. The tablets have come so far. I remember the original ones were, it's just a pen and just a white, when they added the screen, I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
No, I have that flat black thing with the e-drawn, and it's like I can't even see what I'm doing. I quit.
Yeah. That thing has a high learning curve because you're looking at the screen, but you're drawing down here. So it's that's what I started on. I used one of those for years before I got the Cintiq because these things are quite expensive. So I really needed to save up for it early in my career, at least. Yeah.
Nice.
Absolutely. I mean, again, much excite for everything you're working on, sir. That's I think that's the best thing. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of good. I don't know. Do you got Kari? I know you got more.
Well,
yeah.
before Kari,
But Leo asked questions too.
yeah, I just wanted to say, how you tie going back to Frankenstein, and I also want to bring up Worst X-Man Ever, but how you tied all the different body parts together and made like an emotional connection for each one. It was just, I absolutely loved it, and finding out why he's afraid of fire. And why he was holding on to the son's hand, and the love. Don't want to spoil too much, but yeah, just absolutely loved how everything just tied together.
Yeah, I wanted to play with the idea of essentially muscle memory. Does the flesh remember the things that the brain does not? And it's not necessarily a question that's answered, but it was just a fun question to pose and play with in terms of imagery and theme. Each issue follows the arc of the path of one of the body parts of the monster, and you see where it came from, and you see how the future of that monster reflected things that happened with that body part. So I thought it was just fun thematically to do, and it gave me something to always go back to if I ever got stuck in the writing of the issue and I was writing the issue about the heart. I would think, how can I go back to what the heart means and why it's important and what people's hearts tell you about them, right? So I always had that to fall back on if I was ever stuck with what someone should be saying or thinking or feeling, which was it's a good storytelling technique, is to make sure that you have your theme. Whether you really want to hammer it home or not, it doesn't matter. But whenever you have a bit of a block, you can always go back to that theme and think of ways that you can tie into it.
Awesome.
Sure.
It's got me talking about craft. I can talk about craft all night long. So.
We will let you talk about craft all night long.
Especially mac and cheese too. We'll talk about that as well. Thank you.
Oh, I'm stocked on mac and cheese right now in this house because my kid likes it, and we never know if he's going to want the Paw Patrol mac and cheese, the Spidey mac and cheese, the plain mac and cheese. So we have to have all the options,
Yeah, you got to be ready because, again, you're on that mac and cheese level. You could get to the butter noodles phase. You know what I mean? There is, it's a pasta trajectory of childhood to teenage years, adulthood. It's a perilous journey. So all the cheese and carbs for you, sir. You know,
Yeah, I can't say no to cheese and carbs. I'm a fan.
no one can, except the lactose intolerant. Then they have to work with that.
Just real quick mac and cheese story. You know, it's
oh no.
I got one too.
Oh my god. Oh god.
Well, okay, not to be a downer or anything, but as the two of you know, and Michael, I know you don't know, but my mom passed away recently, and you know, she's been on my mind and everything. So, but speaking of mac and cheese, growing up, you know, we grew up poor, and she would make the most amazing mac and cheese. She would go to like the deli and get like all the it was like the ends of the cheese, you know, that they don't want to give out. So all these mixtures of different types of cheeses, and she'd make a homemade mac and cheese with that. Most friggin' delicious thing I ever had.
Guys, you're making me hungry now.
How dare it, Leo? And we order food whenever we go to your place, and you just use this.
I can never make that. You know, it's yeah.
You'll have to make it for us this upcoming August. Wait, my mac and cheese story is pretty quick. Kiddos will not stop if you get them started. I have one who's almost 30, who is still like, that's the go-to is the mac and cheese, and won a full year's worth of free mac and cheese out of the whole country from Panera for a year. So yeah, so she was just like, I'm getting my mac and cheese every week. You know, I'm going in. I get
That's all I would eat, I think, if I had a year's worth of mac and cheese.
Oh hell yeah, Panera mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Is so
yeah. But it's she was a volleyball player and an athlete, like in track and everything. So it was like carbs. You need all this. And then it's like you graduate high school, you go to college, you don't run 3 miles a day. And it's like, maybe not so much carbs, but you know, it's all good. You balance it out.
That's true.
And then you still eat the mac and cheese because it's free mac and cheese. And why would you not?
Well, yeah, of
you
course.
Just jog a little bit.
I have no mac and cheese story, despite the fact that I do love mac and cheese. And if it is made, I'm not going to not partake in that. So that is just my story. It's got to be pretty bad if I'm just like, nope, can't do it. No, it's not. So that's my story. I'm good. Just give me carbs and cheese, kids. And all right. Leo, did you want to talk a little bit about the worst X-Men ever?
Yeah,
because he really was. But
yeah, it was, you know, for a reason. And Michael, I know you didn't write this, but this was just a fun book. You know, I'm not a big X-Men reader, but I really enjoyed this book.
God, this was a lifetime ago. It was probably around 10 years ago that I drew this. Yeah. So it feels, I haven't looked at it in a long time, but my art has changed so much since then. It's just so interesting for me to look at it.
See, you draw cute things.
Yeah.
This is like, aw. You do realize cloth scraping as well?
It's fun. I was actually just talking to Max Bemis, who was the writer on this the other day.
Oh, nice.
And he was just saying like, oh, I know that you probably don't like your work at it, but it's great, man. It's great. It's just very interesting to look back at and think about the things that I was spending time on then, and then the way that I've consolidated a lot of my workflow now, and how fast I'm working, but how much higher the quality is of the work. It's kind of wild. You learn a lot when you draw literally 1,000 pages over 10 years.
I would assume so, but I've also never been more terrified of somebody being accused of Logan calling somebody lawsuit boy. So that wrecked me. I was like, oh no, kid. Oh, welcome to the club. You are officially along with Spider-Man and Deadpool, or people that have pissed off this man.
Yeah.
So good on you there.
I have a piece here. This was friggin' hilarious. You just be dead because you'd be exploded.
I have a question about the art, and this specific page setting worked out really well. Thanks for changing that. Like, no, go back.
Oh, go back. Okay.
Yeah, the specific where it was right there. Yeah. Okay, like right where we're at, zoom. Okay. But in this, you chose to let the hair not be outlined dark, like it's not the hair like kind of blends in because everything's kind of a red background, and he's kind of like an aspiring character that is just destined to be in the background. And then
Yeah.
yeah, like it was that intentional, kind of that way that
Well, I
just
know at
kind
the
of let him
time, like
blend a bit.
I was using a lot of what's called color holds, is when you put a color over the ink line. But that, I think that was all Ruth who colored this, and she had a good, was doing these offset colors in the backgrounds and putting color holds in really interesting places. So I think that when I'm trying to remember because I had done some color roughs for some of the characters, and I think I did have his hair color holded like that. So I think it was an early decision to make him stand out and be distinct from the other people, but it's a good observation that it does make him blend into the back a little bit, make him feel like a background character, which is what he essentially is.
And
Yeah,
I
I
will
never
say
know how
another.
much control who has or what, you know? So
Yeah,
Yeah, totally.
and
Well, sometimes it blends together for me too. A lot of books, people will ask who did this or who decided to do this. And sometimes I don't even remember because it's such a collaborative medium. And a lot of times everybody's throwing ideas at the board that are involved with a project. And by the end of the day, after 6 months of working on something every day, sometimes you don't even know where something came from because it all just blends together.
right. Well, I also need to say another one of the great moments here. I think was it Bailey? That's the character, right? Bailey.
Yep.
He's facing against the Juggernaut and that friend of his who can just create shit. Just drops him down a well,
Yeah.
and you just see you just see him yelling hatred as he's descending. I was like, I'm done. I'm done. She dropped the Juggernaut down a well. I'm
you're
the
like,
kid figured out what all of X-Men have yet to do. Just yeah, I can't. I was just like, wow, like look at that.
Yeah, those are, oh gosh, I haven't seen these pages in so long. Ruth's colors on this book were pretty excellent. She did a really good job.
Absolutely. But so like that was hilarious. Like even like the little things, like I loved like you had the one where you had this like potential future and you had
Yeah.
like what happened to everybody. You had like the Hellfire Club were like DJs. And I think what was it like Magneto and Quinn Quire were mad that the guy who won basically stole their shtick. So you
Yeah.
have just like penniless Magneto and Quinn Quire, and they both have signs. And Magneto's like, "I was right first," and Quinn Quire's like, "This guy stole my shtick." I was like, "I'm done." If anybody knows X-Men lore, this shit is fucking funny.
Yeah.
So, but you had so much to do with this, and it was just so fucking funny.
Yeah,
But it
it
just
was
killed
this
me.
book and Hank Johnson are kind of why Marvel just started giving me comedy books for a few years because I don't know, I guess they just liked how I did the humor. They thought it was pretty good, or one of my prominent parts of my skill set. So that was I spent I think 3 or 4 years at Marvel mostly doing comedy books. And it's funny because now I'm known as the horror guy, which is kind of the other end of the storytelling spectrum. But there is some overlap between horror and comedy in that what you're doing is building towards a punchline. You're building tension on the page to either, tell the joke, hit the punchline of the joke, or scare someone. So both of those things, you're just building tension.
Right.
Would you write a B horror book, like just like it's supposed to be cheesy horror kind of thing?
Oh,
Or
totally. Yeah. I mean, I think even
like
sometimes, well, Creep Show was kind of like that. I think, in some of the Creep Show issue that I did with Joe Hill and Jason Chiramella, that had a lot of humor and a lot of B comedy in it.
Absolutely. I finally
Yeah.
read that
you
story
did
too.
Wolverine
After
Station,
your
didn't
book,
you?
I actually read the anthology with Wolverton,
Oh,
and I
yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah. Very
I was like,
different.
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, wow, they still did a really good job. But that ending, I was just like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah, that
slick
was a
comic.
fun one to draw.
Yeah, man, that was crazy. But
That was oddly my introduction to Joe Hill, as like the first thing I knew about Joe Hill, as who he was.
mhm.
Like
Oh, interesting.
I'd read bits and pieces of Joe Hill before, but all it like that was my like,
Oh my-
oh shit, he's Stephen King's son. And the only
Yep,
reason I knew that is because I was covering that article because I do all the horror stuff, and
she
I
does.
was reading. I was like, oh, and he's just like, you did. How did you? Why? What's even wrong with you that you didn't know that?
He's
I
So
didn't
great.
say that.
If
I just
like
said
I don't know if you've
you
read it,
felt
but
that.
his novel Nosferatu is really good.
absolutely,
I will
Yeah.
check it out.
absolutely, and I will also say his anthologies are absolutely fantastic. I just finished 2 of them this year alone, and they were thank you to my local library. Support your
Yeah.
libraries, kids. And I'm working through one of his is The Fireman.
Yeah. Fireman's really good.
Yeah. But I read I think it was Strange Weather.
Yeah. I have that
Uh,
one too. Yeah.
Yo, that was like he had some great ones. Like I read one that I was like, man, I can't wait. Like I was like, I would gladly film this as a fucking series or a movie. It was so good.
Yeah.
But
Totally.
no, he's great. And you
Yeah.
guys did a wonderful job adapting that story. So, kudos to you.
Thank you. Yeah. No, it was really fun
And
working on that and getting to know him a little bit too.
any potential future collaborations with him, maybe that you can talk about or not?
Um, I would love to. I would love to work with him again. There's nothing planned right now. I mean, he's a pretty busy guy. He's working on his new novel and TV stuff too. So he's pretty swamped. Like even on the Creep Show book that we did together, Jason Charamella took the reins a lot and a lot of the writing because Joe is just so busy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. But
So, how far in advance are you up to now since we last covered you on issues of the Silver Coin? If you're able to, like, you don't have to say what they're about or anything, but like, how many can we be expecting that we know for sure are going to be like hitting us?
Well, the next arc is going to be 5 issues. I have all of the scripts except one, and one of the issues is drawn, and another has some work done on it, but it's not completely finished yet. I actually drew them. I'm drawing them out of order because I was just drawing them kind of in the order that I got the script. So issue 20 is drawn because that's the issue that I wrote. And then issue 16 has 16 has a bunch of work done on it as well.
nice.
Which is issue 16 is really cool. I can't almost just said
wait.
I can't say who's writing anything besides myself obviously yet. But yeah, it's a really fun arc. Very each arc feels very different. Each story feels very different, but I feel like these issues are kind of more experimental, I guess. I'm trying some new things with the art, especially on issue 16, and then issue 20. The setting of issue 20 is something completely different that we haven't seen yet. Maybe I'll just spoil it because it's my book, so I can do what I want.
Yeah.
But issue 20 is in space.
Wow.
Rebecca and Duncan in space? Okay, I guess I know that. But
and very much
I'm
inspired by stuff like Alien and that kind of like haunted house spaceship horror.
Yo, I was just thinking that. I was like, it's Alien in space, man.
Yeah.
No one can hear you scream.
Yeah.
So
that's
it's not
what issue
Leprechaun
20
in
is going to be.
space.
No, it's not Leprechaun in space, Carrie.
It's a better in space. It's not a silly in space. Because I was gonna say you can't suddenly just like be like, and now we take the silver coin and Amityville the fuck out of it.
No.
that would be bad.
Carrie,
That would be
Carrie,
terrible.
Carrie,
That.
I'll say this in the best Amityville voice possible. Get out. Thank you.
Wow, that's a nice pillow.
I don't want to talk about it.
He doesn't going to show up all the time, so I have it on reserve for when he can't tell one of us to leave.
True story. Well, Michael, we're coming near the end of things, and thank you so much though for coming by. We're glad we could strike up a hearty appetite in ye. Yeah. But thank you so much. But in terms of what you have coming up, what are you going to be at any conventions that people can meet with you? You know, in such
I'll be at Toronto Fan Expo at the
Mhm.
end of the summer. I'll be at NYCC in the fall. I'm going to be doing some appearances on James's Corpse Tour, which he's doing. So James Tynan is doing a tour of signings to celebrate the release of Exquisite Corpses #1. So I'll be showing up at a few of those, but that's yet to be announced.
Cool.
And I'm still on the fence, but I might be popping into San Diego for San Diego Comic-Con. So stay tuned to my social media for that. But if I am there, I will definitely announce it. So just a couple little appearances here and there. With the way that things are at the border, I'm kind of cut down on my American appearances a little bit.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. We understand.
Yeah.
Totally understand.
And then Leo, do you have anything you'd like to ask?
Well, I probably asked this last time. You know
It could
what?
have changed.
Yeah.
It's true.
One thing we ask everybody is, when you're not drawing comics or writing comics, what do you dork out about? It's,
I dork out about video games,
Yep.
Magic the Gathering, movies and TV shows, and music. Probably
Nice.
are my 4 dorky things.
Nice.
Magic the Gathering is probably the dorkiest of those, but I also am a Magic the Gathering artist, so I have a special connection to the game as well. But yeah, video games, like I'm a big video game player. I just finished Metaphor, which is a Japanese RPG game by the people who made Persona. I've been playing Marvel Rivals a bit, which has been really fun. And me and Tony just started playing Split Fiction, which is the new game by the people who did It Takes Two, and it is so fun. It's some of the most fun I've had playing a video game in a long time, and it's a split screen game, couch co-op. So you're just sitting beside each other, playing it, and it's a really cool story too. You're playing these 2 women who are writers, and they've sold a story to this evil corporation, and the corporation has come up with this machine that can extract the visuals for their stories from their brains, but something goes wrong and you get stuck in these writers' stories. So I don't want to say more than that because it's really fun, really cool story, just so engaging. It's a great game. I highly recommend checking out Split Fiction if you're a couch co-op player and you have someone that you get along with or you don't get along with and you want to make that worse, that you want to play couch co-op with.
So it sounds like you also like JRPGs.
I do. Yes. I grew up a 90s kid, and when Final Fantasy VII came out and I was just getting into anime, that game absolutely blew my mind. And then I went back and played all the other classic JRPGs. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of that genre. In recent years, I'm a big fan of the FromSoft games. I like Dark Souls and Bloodborne, Sekiro, Elden Ring. All those games really tickle something in my brain.
Did you couple things? The Dragon Quest remasters. Have you?
Haven't dipped in there yet. So Dragon Quest is the one that's actually a little bit of a blind spot for me because I played all the Final Fantasy games, Chrono Trigger, Legend of Dragoon. But like for whatever reason, like I just didn't have access to the Dragon Quest games growing up, and they're one that I never really went back to. But I have been interested. I just don't know which is the best one to start with. I don't know what Dragon Quest is the best to be your first Dragon Quest game.
Well, they're about to remaster 1 and 2.
So that would maybe be a good place to start.
Yeah. It's kind of weird because they remastered 3 first, and it turns out I don't want to spoil anything, but they did that for a reason. But it's also, one of the more complex ones. So definitely start with 1. That's one of the games other than Legend of Zelda. That's what got me into RPGs. And they're also coming out with a remaster of Lunar 1 and 2.
Oh yeah, I played one of those way back in the day.
Yeah,
I think I might have played 2 actually.
So did any of you build up your Blitzball teams with Final Fantasy X? Like my Blitzball team kicks ass, dude. I did not stop playing that game. I kept going back, recruiting people, running around, practicing, doing the thing. I can do the jet shot with like no mistakes when you're getting it,
Blitzball was so janky, but I was so determined to win that Blitzball game.
Right? Because it was like
Yeah.
it pissed you off how hard it was to get, and then it's finally like, well, I'm gonna do this, man.
Yeah.
I have something that you will be probably the only person who can sympathize with me entirely. I had Magic the Gathering cards all the way back from like Unlimited. And when I was not spending much time at my house and some other people were living here, they stole my entire collection. All of
Oh,
my belt decks,
no.
all of my sign cards, and like roughly 7,000 cards or so that just all disappeared. And
I'm sorry to
I
hear that.
thought,
That's awful.
yeah, I thought they were like, I'd been assured by somebody that they were just back in this like way back thing in the closet. And I finally got and went and looked, and I was like, no, they're not. No,
I'm sorry. That's
you
rough.
mentioned the, but you know what it's like? It's just like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
so, but
I had a quite an extensive collection of those early cards, and then when I went to high school, I got out of it for a bit. So I just told my friend, like, I wasn't thinking that they'd be worth anything one day, you know? So I just said he was still playing, he was in tournaments. I said, take all my cards, use them in the tournaments, trade them, get what you need so you can win these tournaments. And then when I started getting back into cards again after high school, and I got them back from him, everything of value was gone, essentially. Like there
no.
was some cards that were good that were in there, but nothing of any value. So, but what can you do, right?
I had someone almost break up with me that I was living with because we were all very competitive. We all did tournaments. And I got a card that I wasn't, I didn't even remember what the card was. It was that insignificant. But I got a card that he was looking for that was a rare. And like I traded it to somebody else. They were like, oh, I'll give you like everything that I'd wanted for a while for finishing one of my decks for this one card. And he halfway wanted it for his own, but he also halfway wanted it because he knew my significant other at the time wanted it. And I didn't realize that he wanted it. And so oh yeah, I traded, so and so this card. And he's just like, you what? I need that for this deck. It was like, whoa, our first like big fight was about Magic the Gathering.
Magic the Gathering gets people heated. It gets people heated.
Yeah, it's a thing. So I don't know if you can answer more about it or not, but is the game that you're working with, are we going to be seeing anything with Exquisite Corpses associated with MTG, or is that going to be entirely its own thing? I don't know how much you can talk about stuff or not,
we haven't talked too much about it publicly yet because there's going to be a formal announcement next week, but we have talked a bit about it.
Right.
And there is an Exquisite Corpses game that's a standalone game, no association with Magic the Gathering. It's a card game that is like kind of has some light RPG elements and some social strategy elements, but it's a really easy to learn, pick up and play game that you can play without having read the comic, but obviously it'll be more fun when you know the characters, and each person playing the game will play as one of the killers from the comic. So it's going to be really fun. It's a good party game. You can play it with groups of anywhere from 4 to 12 people. We want it to be playable. If you had 12 friends, everyone could play one of the killers from the book, so it's really fun. We've been playing it a bunch as the people who were involved with the comic, but I've also been play testing it with a big group of people for the last year and a half to just really fine tune it and make sure all the killers were balanced and all were viable options to win the game. But it's so fun, and I love playing it, and I made it, which is a weird thing to say, but everybody that's played it has really had a blast. So we're really excited for fans of the comic to learn it, and it's a really good entry point just for card games in general, like that. There are some elements of this that would help with learning Magic the Gathering or Pokemon or any of those other Yu-Gi-Oh, any of the card games, so it's a really good entry point into that world as well. So I'm excited for people to play that, and then maybe they go and they learn Magic the Gathering or one of the other games as well.
And are you releasing it digitally so that people are able to play, like if we all hopped on a Zoom call together or something like that, so that if people aren't all able to gather in the same room together, they can still play without?
That I can't say just yet.
Okay.
But
just yet.
If not, I would suggest
You'll have to wait and see. But there will be lots of ways to play the game. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And there'll be lots of ways, different ways to get the pieces for the game to play it. I think
Awesome.
I can say that.
I look forward to seeing that because I need a new card game, a new CCG now. So this is going to be where I start.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Hey.
All right.
Well, I know we are well past time, so we're going to let you go, Michael. Where do you like people interacting with you on social media?
Lately, I've been mostly on Instagram and Bluesky. On Instagram, I'm Mr._Walsh, and on Bluesky, I'm pretty sure I'm just Michael Walsh. I think I was able to get in on the ground level and actually get Michael Walsh, which I wasn't able to get on anything else because it's such a common name.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. We have all that in our show notes up above or down below. So whoever, when you're watching or listening to us, just check the show notes. And we didn't cover this, Michael, but when you're ready to leave, there's a leave studio button on the bottom.
Okay.
When you do that, it'll prompt you to go to an uploads page. If you can just leave that going until it's complete, because we re-edit all the interviews afterwards.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool beans.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
We'll talk again soon, hopefully.
Absolutely. Good luck with everything you're working on, and enjoy the mac and cheese.
Have a nice night.
Thank you so much.
Excelsior!